I just felt like, wow, we got to keep doing this because we can do it. And it's almost like realizing, like, if, we all wonder kind of, why are we here? What's my purpose? What's the meaning? And if maybe part of your meaning or part of your purpose is that you can make people feel good, you can make them feel accepted, you can make them recognize that they're loved and they're part of something, maybe that's a good statement of purpose right there.
Welcome to the LubDub Show, brought to you by the Providence Heart to Start program and the Oregon Brew Running series. The LubDub is a weekly podcast and interactive video show where we talk with experts about all things running and walking, and we get to hear from some amazing Heart to Start program champions who have just provided some absolutely amazing motivation and inspiration on this 12-week fitness journey that we're all on here, where as a community, we are going to become united in making 2021 the year that we become our best, healthiest selves. Hello, everyone. Happy New Year. Welcome to 2021. My name is Nathan Freeberg. I am the co-founder of the Oregon Brew Running series, and since 2016, we've been hosting untimed, family-friendly 5K fun runs that have started and ended at breweries all over Oregon and Southwest Washington. We have pivoted to virtual challenges during the pandemic. And the Oregon Brew Running series is really built on this foundation of community. And we are so excited to be expanding that foundation, or growing that foundation, however the metaphor goes, through this partnership with the Heart to Start community for the socially distanced training program and the goal event that I just mentioned. And while we can't be together in person, we hope that this distance actually will make our hearts grow stronger. This is week 8 of the LubDub Show. Be sure to go back and listen to past episodes of this, where we've talked to some great program champions from really all over the state of Oregon who have inspired us. And we've also received some just great helpful information about everything from running gear to stretching and strength training, the mental and emotional side of our fitness. And of course, something on how to seek joy, how to actually make this fun as we embark on becoming our best, healthiest selves. This week, Evelyn Martindale, our champion from the Walla Walla program, is going to be stopping by to say hello, along with a couple special guests that some of you may have met last week. They share their stories in a pre-recorded video since we took the week off. They're going to say hi. And then later we get to hear from the one and only Dr. Beckerman, the founder of this program, who's going to be talking about the power of our personal journeys and sharing stories. And I don't know, maybe he'll even encourage and motivate some of you to be a little bit bolder in the way that you share your story and your personal why. But before we get to that, Tracy Rose, who is the Heart to Start program manager, is going to share a couple of quick announcements. Tracy, good evening. How are you? What do you have for us tonight as you emerge from the bottom of that person's running shoe?
Yes, I'm going to get stepped on right here. Hello, Happy New Year, everyone. Just briefly, real quick, because I really want to get into the meat of what's going to get talked about tonight. Just 2 reminders. 1, t-shirts are getting mailed out next week. We want to share it. It's like a broken record. Make sure you've done your submitting your information so we can mail that out to you next week would be amazing. And then as shared with that Nathan just shared on the goal event, it's really important. We want to kind of have gone through this journey for 12 weeks with you when we want to finish it at that finish line with what Nathan and his team have put together. So please don't forget to sign up for the goal event, get the amazing swag that they're sending you, along with what we're sending out. We want you to have it before February 5th, which means we kind of need to get registrations in so that they have time to get them out. So, because we want you to wear these and celebrate and share pictures and videos with us as we start to cross our finish lines here at the beginning of February. So take the couple minutes, do that. There's discount codes that have been shared. People are winning free entries. Just make sure you take a minute and get that done, and then register for our t-shirt as well, which is free, part of the program. And just a little plug for caregivers that are in here that are doing your Choose Well points, and there's a lot of you. Just remember that registering for the goal event is how you earn 4,000 of your 10,000 points. So step 1 was registering for this free training program. Step 2 is registering for the goal event, and the chosen goal event for the program is the Follow Your Heart 5K, 10K. And so make sure you do those two pieces because they come together for 4,000 points. And then your weekly participation that you've been logging in Strava and into the leaderboard, those are your 500 points you've been earning every week to get to 6,000, 6,000, 4,000, 10,000 points, 1/4 of your health incentive for 2022.
All right, our first guest is Evelyn Martindale. Evelyn, are you here?
I am here.
Yes, that is you. Okay.
That is me.
I wasn't quite sure if your screen name was actually you. Awesome, fantastic. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing great. Great, thank you. How about you?
Yeah, terrific. And where are you in Walla Walla right now as we speak?
I'm in my office in Walla Walla at the hospital, yes.
Okay.
Still at work.
I was going to ask you if you'd transformed your cubicle and moved it to home, but you are not at home right now, so that's fantastic.
This is office. Just got done seeing patients for the day, so.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, just tell us a little bit about who you are, what's your role with Providence, and then we'll get into some other stuff here.
Okay. Well, so as we said, my name is Evelyn Martindale. I have been working with Providence for the last 8 years as a cardiology nurse practitioner. We have a practice here with about 6 providers. We're actually the only cardiology group for Walla Walla and College Place. So we serve all this side of the state. So it's a very rural area, but very cozy, very, very pretty. If you haven't been to Walla Walla, you probably should come visit sometime once visiting is the thing again, right? So before starting here in cardiology, I worked 15 years in an ICU unit, an open heart unit here in Tri-Cities, not so far away from here. So that's kind of the latest 20 years of my life.
Wow. Well, thank you for all of those years of service. Tell us a little bit, why did you get involved with Heart to Start to begin with?
So, well, about 5 years ago, this would have been my 5th year directing Heart to Start here in Walla Walla. I've been known around here in the hospital as somebody that's running all the time, that loves to exercise. And so I'm always known by my patients that if they come and they tell me they haven't been exercising, they're gonna hear a speech, So anyway, so it was thought that I would be a good fit to start this program. I've never heard of it. So I fell in love with it. When we had it going really good here in town, it was something that people in the community were looking forward every single year. Somebody, quite a bit of people at the end of the main event, they would say, well, why don't we do this like twice a year? And so it was a very nice thing here in this community. They really embraced it. And so we just kept on doing it year after year until, 2020. And then now we're doing it this way.
Right. Which I guess is better than nothing. So in those 5 or so years, is there anything that sticks out as like favorite memories or something that you're like, oh, that's that thing that person said, or watching so-and-so cross the finish line is just really going to stick with me forever?
It's hard because there were so many, wonderful stories, actually. I mean, very, very successful stories. People that not only became just proud of themselves for just even committing to something like this and seeing it through. I think that gave a sense of accomplishment to people. It's like, well, I can do this. So there's a couple of patients of mine that I saw coming out of open heart surgery and then came to visit me after the surgery for the first time. I enrolled them in cardiac rehab. And then I said, hey, by the way, Heart to Start starts. And they did it. They actually showed up. I was very impressed by a couple. I had 3 people that were very consistent, 3 people for 4 years. Every single year, they will come and do the walks with their walkers. So they would be pushing the walkers along the course that we had. And, I don't know, that kind of power of showing up for me was just always very inspiring.
Yeah, I love that. I think I'm someone who definitely gets inspired by other people or hearing other, stories of people doing great things. So I love, thank you for relaying that.
Yeah.
A question I've been asking the last few weeks here that I just think is fun. What is something that you've discovered during the pandemic that's been bringing you joy lately? It can be a tiny little thing. It can be a great, big, profound thing. I think there's something contagious when we all kind of share these little stories that maybe help us look for joy in unexpected places.
So I think for me was the treadmill. I I was never into treadmills. I've always liked the open air. I've always liked being outside in fresh air. Never liked the treadmills. I mean, that was a thing that happened only. So the one thing about the weather here in Walla Walla is we have very dry, cold winters. So they're not very snowy, but it's just dry, cold. And so I don't run really well in the cold. You know, don't like getting out there in the cold. So treadmills happen only, from December and January. That was the months of the treadmill. But since the gyms are closed, I was obligated to commit to a treadmill. So that's been the joyful thing. Now I'm like so happy I have her, it's like, don't know what I would do without you. So, until the weather gets better. So I think that's been my joy source lately.
I love that. I love that.
It's pretty pathetic though. But
No.
It is. It's like the little things,
That's not a little thing. That's a big thing. I mean, that connects directly to your physical health, to your mental health,
Yes.
all of those things. And as someone who grew up in Minnesota, I am very familiar with running on a treadmill in the winters, and sometimes it is absolutely a necessity. So, good for you. Did you get like one of those fancy, like ones that have all those workout apps on them, or is this just a basic?
No. It's like the basic, cheapest thing that will not fall under my feet when I'm, on it. So
that's all you need.
But yeah, I figured this is temporary too. So I'm like, no, I'm not going to invest. I'll be out there in no time. So I just couldn't wait until March. So
yeah. Good for you. Good for you. Well, Evelyn, what's maybe a word or a phrase or just some sort of encouragement you can leave us with here as we are all kind of right in the middle of this big training program, as perhaps some of us are running in snow or terrible weather or, whatever it is, like leave us with a little word of encouragement here to motivate us to keep going this week.
My biggest admirement to those that are actually out there, when it's that cold. Definitely. I wish I had that tolerance to the cold. It's not actually a mental thing. It's actually a real physical thing. My body just does not work in that temperature. But I got my little, this is my diary, and one of my favorite quotes, and I heard it once, wrote it down, and I cannot remember who said it, and I can't find the source, but I think is a great quote. So I'm going to share it with you guys. This actually inspires me those days that I feel like maybe I'll skip today, It says, success is not owned. Success is rented, and the payment is due today and every day. So show up, hustle, and be intentionally present.
Before we get to our main guest, Dr. Beckerman, I just want to give a big shout out and say thank you to Katie and Shannon and Linda and Kim and Tanisha. They, if you haven't seen the video from last week, these women just shared a little bit of kind of their own whys, which is our topic for tonight. Why they get active, why they do what they do, some motivational words, some inspiration. And I have follow-up questions for all of them. And I don't know if we'll have time to it, but Tanisha, if you don't mind me picking on you for a minute, I'm going to ask you to unmute. So Tanisha, first of all, thank you. Just thank you for sharing. And nice to meet you, by the way.
Hello.
So Tanisha, you shared kind of you said like you don't really have a word, but you had more of a phrase or some other stuff. You like quotes. You talked about being an influencer and a motivator, and you just seem to love to motivate people. And I think even just you sharing the little tidbits about you've been married for 20 years, you have the 2 kids, you've been a nurse for I think it was 18 years. I was like, wow, she has a lot going on, and she still seems just so energized and excited. And so I'm curious, as a self-proclaimed influencer and motivator, what might you say to somebody who maybe feels like they can't do that, or they're like, well, I'm boring. I have nothing interesting that I could share to be inspirational to someone. Like, what might you say to that person who feels like they don't maybe have any kind of a story to tell?
I would say everybody has a story to tell. Everybody is on a different journey, and you never know how your story might impact someone else. So I would just always be willing to share no matter what, because, like I said, each of us are on a different pathway, and, we kind of tell our story and what we kind of go through. And with all of us who were on the spotlight, we all learned something different about another person and their journey. And even though it might not have been something I said, I was like, oh, I've been on that journey too, being up and down and, working on weight loss, and that being, one of the things that, we're working on, and trying to be comfortable, who you are and in your skin. So, we all have a journey, and everyone tells different stories that's going to impact someone else.
That's such a helpful reminder, because you never know how your part of your story connects with someone else's story and just makes something, much more powerful than that. So thank you. I appreciate that. Kim, I want to pick on you really quick. Not pick on you, but I have a follow-up for you. So I know Kim, and also Shannon, who's on here through the Brew Running series. Kim said that her why was self-confidence. And in the, 3, 4, 5 years that I've known Kim, I've personally witnessed Kim's self-confidence grow around, like, specifically this area of running. It's just kind of skyrocketed as she's tackled more and more distances, longer distances. She ran a marathon. I can't remember if it was just this last fall or longer ago. And so, Kim, my follow-up question to you is, as you have kind of grown in your self-confidence, at least from my perspective, in the area of running, and we're not even getting into your entire weight loss journey, which could be another amazing conversation. How have you seen that kind of leak out and ooze into other areas of your life, to use two unintentionally gross terms?
Oh, it can leak out. You're silly.
Sorry.
That's okay. I find it easier to talk to people, easier for me to get on here and talk to you. It's leaked in that way. I mean, having the confidence to tell people to go for it, to get it, to have fun, and to enjoy it, that's where that kind of has leaked into it.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that, and just being a part of this community and the Brew Running series community and all that. So where's Katie?
I'm right here.
There you are. There you are.
An easy question.
Okay.
I know no cardiology. I'm not a doctor.
Okay. So if my left arm is, just kidding.
Yeah. I'm
so Katie,
fast.
Yeah. You talked about where is it here? Quote, "Don't be hard on yourself." And I don't know how many of you can relate to that, or how many of you are ever hard on yourself. And so I'm just wondering if you can just share any, practical tips or ways that you have been less hard on yourself and found ways to just keep going, be that in training, be that in a bigger thing in life. Like, help us out here. What's been some of your tips and tricks, if you will?
Just reminding myself that it's okay not to be as good as, that person who's dashing down the road at 9-minute miles or whatever that's called. It's okay to just be yourself and be the best that you can be. Because when I first started doing Hard to Start, I thought, I'm going to learn to run, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do it right. I'm going to be so fast. Wait, I can't be fast. And when it came down to running for 5 minutes, I found myself in tears. And it's like, what am I doing wrong? Why can't I do this? And that's when that nice cardiologist, Dr. Beckerman, said, you can walk. And I went, oh, I get it. It can be easy. So be kind to yourself, be gentle, and remember that it's what's right for you, not for the other person. So
yeah, it's so easy, isn't it, to compare ourselves to other people, and compare, like, maybe our less than great to someone else's, like, excellent. So was that hard? I know that you said you had, I can't remember if you had an injury or for some reason you couldn't run anymore after you had, become a runner. I don't know what I would do if someone told me you can't run anymore. Well, how did you work through that?
That was really hard. I had both hips replaced.
Both of them?
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Both within the same year.
Okay.
So it's like, And this is honest moment. I felt like a failure. I felt like a failure. I felt like I gave up the team. I was not upholding, I'm going to be a runner. And again, our community, our people, it's okay. It's okay to walk. You don't have to run. We are we're Heart to Start and we're all together. And that, it was such a relief. And it was just, I realized, yes, this is a team and we can all do what we need to do. So yeah, doctor says I'd have to have him replaced sooner if I ran or played basketball. I went, I don't have to do either.
Just walk and you're all good. Yeah, that's great. Well, thank you for sharing that, Katie. I appreciate it. It's always good to hear, multiple ways people kind of address that question of just kind of ease up on yourself a little bit. So.
Yeah. Yep. Be kind.
Be kind. I like that. Self-kindness. I think we all perhaps need a little bit more of that.
Be kind to others, but be kind to yourself as well.
Exactly. Well, our main guest tonight, I believe, is with us. Dr. Beckerman was called away on some urgent stuff, but welcome, Dr. Beckerman. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you. I'm back.
Awesome.
It's good to see you.
Yeah, it's good to see you. I have this intro I need to read for you because it kind of sets up our conversation. So here it is.
Oh boy.
Our main guest tonight is Dr. James Beckerman, who is a cardiologist at Providence Heart Institute and medical director of prevention and wellness for the Providence Heart Institute in Oregon. He is the founder of this here Heart to Start community and also directs the Play Smart Youth Heart Screening Program. It's a little bit of a mouthful. And is the regional director of cardiac rehabilitation in Oregon. He is the team cardiologist for the Portland Timbers, serves as the Sports and Exercise Leadership Council for the American College of Cardiology. He's also a runner, loves the outdoors, art, music, and I guess this would fall into the art category, but he also loves making wood carvings using a chainsaw. So Dr. Beckerman.
And I'm wearing this sweatshirt that I got for the holidays. It says, "This job thing sure is messing up my wood carving career."
Man, don't we all? Isn't that the truth?
I'm really excited about it. So I thought I'd.
Well, and I believe
a chainsaw carving baseball hat.
I was just about to say, I grew up in northern Minnesota, and I'm familiar with that brand of. So how are you tonight? You just got pulled away. Did you get any time off over the holiday? Are you just running crazy?
Yeah. I was on call over the Christmas weekend, which it's always kind of a mixed thing to be on call on a holiday weekend because I don't wish to be on call, but I also recognize that for the folks who have to be in the hospital, it's even a harder time. And so it feels, kind of special to be with them and kind of bear witness to that with them. So, that I got some time off last week and relaxed and had some fun and back at it today, apparently. So,
all right.
Yeah.
Just like getting shot out of a cannon.
Always, right?
Yeah, for sure. Well, tonight, as you know, we are talking about the power of stories and sharing our stories. And we just heard from a few of the ladies that shared just a little bit of their stories last week in the video. And so perhaps, leading by example, maybe, I'm wondering if you can tell us just a little bit of your story. Like all of that stuff that I read, how did you get so deeply involved in all of these health and wellness programs and working with the Timbers and like all of this stuff? I mean, was this, your plan as a little boy? Like, or did you just dream of wood carving and this cardiology thing as a detour?
I think that identity is such a fascinating thing because there's always this assumption when you look at other people's perceived identities that it's just something that is just obvious to them or easy for them or, they were kind of born into it to be a certain way or do certain things. But then when you look at yourself, you see your journey. So I think Tanisha was kind of saying that on some level we all have these different paths. It's obviously very easy to see our own path, but harder to see other people's. And so I loved that she shared that insight. So for me, I was a kid who never played sports. I was overweight. I was like a nerd, played a lot of Dungeons and Dragons and was just was not somebody who would easily feel comfortable running 5Ks or marathons or being a part of an organization like this. But it's something that I sort of kind of to myself, I call kind of a summer camp philosophy. If you imagine that you end up going to a new summer camp, an overnight camp where you don't know anybody, on day one, you kind of decide who you're going to be, you know. And I actually say this from personal experience. I went to summer camp all throughout my childhood. If anybody on the call is old enough to know the movie Meatballs with Bill Murray, that was literally my camp. It was filmed, I think, my first summer at the camp when I was very little. So this kind of traditional summer camp experience, and I would come from home, year round, where I kind of had some tough times at school, didn't feel like I was always fitting in. And then I would go to camp and I would be able to reinvent myself, and got more confident, and was able to do things that I never envisioned myself as being able to do during the school year. And once I got to college, I really decided college is summer camp, and then medical school is summer camp, and then your life is summer camp in this weird way where you basically, with every phase that you enter or experience that you have, you actually are allowed to define who you want to be and what you want to do and what you're going to experience. And, we all have our challenges. We all have our limitations. We all have our struggles. If I decided that I was going to be an Olympic curler, that might not have worked out for me so well. But I think that within reason, picking goals that are realistic, that feel consistent with who you are, you can choose to do all these things. And so even with, starting cardiology practice almost 15 years ago, I never thought I was going to be doing any of this stuff that you're talking about. But you just realize, like, I can do it. Why not? And once the phrase, fake it until you make it. And I think that with a lot of this stuff, you just start doing it, and all of a sudden you're the person that does this thing. And so whether that's, something in your job or something in your family or something in your hobbies or social circles, you just sort of do that thing. And then everyone will be like, oh yeah, Nathan, he's the guy that does this. And everyone's like, oh yeah, of course, I know that. He's on the podcast.
I'm doing this right now. I'm doing this exact thing right now, Dr. Beckerman.
Totally. So. And so I think that that's what's so fun about all of this, is that when you make these little discrete choices, like participating in Heart to Start, for example, you become the person who does Heart to Start. You become the kind of person who has this identity where, yeah, I'm part of this really cool community. I am exercising regularly. I'm, checking in with people on Facebook. I'm checking out the podcast tonight. And all of a sudden you look back and you're like, yeah, I'm the person who does that. I mean, it was interesting hearing the various people who were speaking earlier. It was kind of funny to me, just kind of in my own quiet way, to think this is part of their identity. And it wasn't before. It wasn't 5 years ago. They never heard of it 5 years ago or 10 years ago for Katie, because it didn't exist then. But now it's like, yeah, this is part of who I am. And so somebody who knows Katie might say, oh yeah, Katie, yeah, she's, it's November. She's going to be out there at the track. That's what she does. And so I love that we get to make these choices. We're lucky enough that we're in a circumstance where we can do that and be part of something, and then it becomes part of us. And so that is a long answer to your question, but I think that for me, my why is I almost say, why not? Because I can. And I mean, everybody makes fun of me. I'm the guy who, every 2 years, I obsess about a new hobby. I'll be like, I got to learn Italian. I have to learn how, I don't know, chainsaw carving, yoga. There's a part of me that wants to do those things, but there's just a part of me that wants to just experience it and know what it was like to have done those things. Because, we only got one chance. And so I I hope that Heart to Start is one of a million things that our participants try, experience, have some fun with, return to if it resonates. And even if it doesn't, that's okay. Find something else that's awesome for you and do that too.
When we had you on the first episode, you introduced yourself by saying someone who loves new adventures or trying things new, and that's just kind of who you are and what you like to do. I want to drill down and maybe press you a little bit more on your why, because I think, when I was pulling that bio from your Providence page, I noticed that they have like reviews, like provider reviews on there, and there's several dozen for you, and all but one are 5 stars, just glowing.
And my mom wrote the last one.
No, it's kind of like one of those people that gives a review on national parks and is like, "Oh, the Grand Canyon is bad because they didn't have
Not
tacos."
deep enough.
Yeah, whatever, But everyone, and just what I've heard of you is that you make people feel cared for. You care for the whole person. And I haven't had a lot of interactions with doctors and physicians in my life, but they haven't all been that glowing. And so, why? My why is why not? Like I'm curious, like what else is driving this? Not just getting involved and having your name on all these cool things, but like doing it to a degree where people leave you glowing reviews, where you have people just saying how much of an impact you made on their life. Like your why in that. What I'm just kind of trying to pull out in Oprah Winfrey, Barbara Walters style here is like, what is that thing, your spark? I don't know if you've seen Soul yet. Like, what's that spark thing that kind of drives you to get involved in this particular way at this particular time? Does that make sense? Is that too
sure
up in the ether?
I don't know. I mean, there's probably, as with most questions, there's probably many levels on which one can answer it. 2 things that I think about are, I like everybody, I have my own insecurities and kind of wishes to be accepted and loved. And I think that one of the reasons why I like to do these things is that it's my way of accepting and loving other people, kind of giving them. It's kind of, if you give other people what you want, it all comes back to you. And, we talk about this idea, we call it healing it forward.
Right. I've got your quote ready to go here. What if the best way to help yourself is by helping somebody else? So this is a perfect transition. And
so it sounds weird to kind of verbalize it, right? Because it's not to say like, be kind to somebody so that you feel good. That's not the point. But it's recognizing that you have that ability, like we all do. We all have the ability to make other people's lives better. And it turns out that when you do that, your life gets better too. And so I certainly think that that's a component of it. And I think that kind of once we started doing this and I saw how people were affected by it, and some people very deeply and beautifully affected, I just felt like, wow, we got to keep doing this because we can do it. And it's almost like realizing, like, if, we all wonder kind of, why are we here? What's my purpose? What's the meaning? And if maybe part of your meaning or part of your purpose is that you can make people feel good, you can make them feel accepted, you can make them recognize that they're loved and they're part of something, maybe that's a good statement of purpose right there. So, I mean, that's kind of why it started. And that's why, you see that thing on social media, how it started and how it's going. And I think that it speaks to both of those probably.
Yeah. That's good. I think there's something about that of making people feel better in whatever way. I mean, the Brew Running series started I like beer, I like running, but it wasn't really about that. It was, and I think you and I have talked about this before, it was pretty much all of the important moments in my life have been over a beer or on a run. never together because that's dangerous. And so it's like if we can recreate that a little bit for people and then encourage them to go do that on their own, I think that's a really valuable thing to leave the world, if in small little chunks and pockets. So
and I think that one of the coolest things is when you recognize, as with the other folks who've been on the call tonight, is that it becomes ingrained in their lives, and they're sharing it with people in their families or their social circles or their patients, and that's what's really awesome.
Yeah.
Is when you start to see it develop a life of its own kind of, and I think that that's sometimes hard for a parent of something, but then you kind of let it go and you're like, it's thriving in its own way, that it's going to grow. And I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm so happy about that.
It's like art or music. I think it was Eddie Vedder of Pearl Jam describing one of his songs, that he said, I wrote it with this in mind, but as through all the years people were singing it, it took on this different meaning that was much more uplifting and much more encouraging, and something that he had intended. But he's like, I want what it is turned into. And so sometimes I think we're just almost stewards, or our why is to just kind of create something so that other people can take it and figuratively run with it to the next level or the next place, or change it into that thing that it needs to be. So what are your ultimate goals for this program? I mean, I know that it started as a way to help prevent people from having to come see you, I guess. But it's kind of gotten bigger than that. I know that you wrote a book about this a while ago as some of this foundations. Where do you kind of see this going, or what are
That's a good question.
If time and money were no issue, or pandemics weren't here, like what would you hope for this?
Right.
Like, what are your big aspirational hopes for this program?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that along the way, a goal has always been growth. Recognizing that there's always a tension when anything grows between depth and breadth, and I mean, it's so spectacular to me that we're in over 30 states and in Canada. And, but at the same time, I recognize that, somebody who's in Georgia right now, they don't know who I am. They don't care. They don't, know what Providence Heart Institute is. They don't care. And I think that they're right when you're starting to grow something, you do care about that. You want everyone to experience it just the way that you kind of, made it and presented it to them. But then you realize that once something starts growing more organically, it doesn't do that. It has to evolve. And so, I mean, honestly, the greatest wish for this program is that it continues to evolve. And someday, I won't be a part of it. And I hope that it still continues to evolve. And that would be, in some ways, the most exciting thing for me, is to watch it kind of from afar and, just smile at it and, sit on the beach or whatever you're supposed to do.
Yes, I think you'll be in the woods chopping down trees and carving little bears.
Exactly.
But no, that's great, because I think that that's talking like leadership theory or followership theory about how does a movement sustain after the kind of that pivotal figure has moved on for whatever reason. And I think we all talk about different movements or things that have gone on and lived way beyond what the founder had wanted in a positive way, and things that have gone the other direction. And it seems like, I mean, even just talking with Evelyn tonight, in Walla Walla, I mean, I don't know how much daily oversight you have over that program, but it seems like, they've kind of, they're soaking up some of those cultural things that you've wanted for this. Yeah,
I love that when Evelyn was speaking and she was talking, 5 years and this and that. And it's Evelyn's program, and that's amazing and awesome. And I'm so honored that she has become the steward of it and is leading it. So
to kind of wrap us up here, I'm wondering if, we're talking about stories. We're talking about the power of sharing your story with others as maybe they might be motivated by that. Do you have any news about how people might be able to share their story with the larger community? Tell us about that.
Yeah, for sure. I think that in hearing the guests tonight share a little bit, it really, one of the things that it does for me is that it just makes the program so much more accessible when you kind of get to know members of the community, especially because we're virtual right now and you can't, walk with somebody or run with somebody on the track together each week. And so I think that sharing is increasingly important. And remembering that sharing is an act of giving, right? Like I'm giving my story. And part of the reason why I'm doing that is because I want to hear your story too. And it actually feels really good to share that story. It makes you, in that moment, you feel vulnerable, right? I mean, even when I'm kind of telling you about, being in elementary school and like I definitely I feel something, as everybody does when you kind of, dig into your story. And so, be on the lookout. Tracy Rose, the sender of all emails and incredibly important information, will be sharing some opportunities for people to share their stories, whether it's by video or by other means. We're really, really interested because it's harder to hear them right now because of COVID. And so it makes it all the more important to try to share them if you have the opportunity to. So be on the lookout. Tracy will give us some good opportunities.
I look forward to hearing those stories. I feel like I learned something from everybody, no matter if they're much, much older than me or younger or far more experienced or less experienced. I feel like one of the greatest gifts we can give people is, in humble vulnerability, to share maybe a little part of our story. I mean, like even just now when, I read your amazing bio and then you say, even I have my own insecurities, or however you said that, I was like, yeah, me too. Let's talk about that for a while. There's just something about like that little moment that I think it makes us all feel, more connected. So, and who knows, maybe, if we weren't doing this through a screen, we wouldn't have had that opportunity. So, so thank you. I appreciate that.
I appreciate it.
Dr. Beckerman, any final thoughts, any last words you'd like to leave us with or share with us as we kind of go about our weeks?
Just to say that after the new year, even though we kind of have our New Year's resolutions hats on, even if you say you don't, I know you still do. This is the time when people start to fade a little bit because, okay, you're kind of back to work or back to school and try to create your semblance of normalcy after the holidays. And after the excitement of kind of the new year, new you stuff wears off after a week, it's like, oh, I really got to do this. And so just to kind of remember, like we all feel that. And I definitely want to echo Tracy's wish for people to sign up for the goal event. And, I'll be honest with you, I haven't signed up yet because other stuff gets in the way, and that's totally okay. And it's totally expected. But the act of signing up over the next week or two, it's going to motivate you more. And it's just that little reminder to just stay engaged. And that's what we're about.
Thank you, Tracy. Thank you, Dr. Beckerman. Thank you to Tanisha and Kim. And I see Linda hopped on and Shannon, who got sidetracked with kids, and Katie and Evelyn. I'm going to ask everyone to unmute now as we say goodbye and go about our weeks. As Tracy said, please reach out with any questions. Nathan@brewrunningseries.com. We'd love to see you all through the finish line and make our hearts stronger. So, goodbye, everyone. Have a great week.
Bye, everybody.
Be active. Have fun. Give back. Cheers. We will see you